National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Coleman. Should be a real fun weekend, huh?
Thank you. Yeah, very excited.
Yeah, so let's go back. I mean, what got you into wrestling as a kid out in Western PA?
I think probably my grandfather wrestled all the way through high school. Actually wrestled when it ended up going to the Navy, but you know he was on that borderline of going to college and wrestling or not. And so he was a really big influence of getting started when I was 6 years old, and fell in love with it at an early age. Had some great coaches, great people around me that really helped me, push me through that time that could be hard when you're young and don't really know the sport and taking some losses. So, but really just people around me. My grandfather and my coach Joe Throckmorton were probably the two most influential people to continue the sport.
Yeah, and you got in young, right? Some kids, if they get in young, they don't last too long, and you certainly not only got a good start, but you just kept it going. Just talk about the wrestling culture in Western Pennsylvania. I mean, there's a lot of people that have come out of there that have had great careers and really made a difference in wrestling.
Yeah, really fortunate to just be right time, right place, right area. I think it's a very cutthroat region of wrestling, right? I think it's every weekend. You're wrestling some very, very high level stuff without even knowing it when you're younger, right? You just go to these little tournaments, but your wrestling ends up being NCAA All-Americans, NCAA champs. You know, Jake Herbert and I are 60 miles apart, I think. You know, so it just being from there, very just like all I can say is just fortunate, right? To be able to not have to go all over the country to find tough competition and stuff to really push you. You know, again, when I was young, we just didn't think anything of it. We were just going to have some fun and compete, and just happened to be against some of the best guys in the country.
Yeah, no, and it kind of raises the bar for everyone in those events, right? And that was probably, I don't know, there weren't a lot of like super clubs yet, were they, when you were there? I mean, now kids even in the western part of PA have some really good choices with some amazing coaches outside of their high school season. Where did you find the information and the support to get good in freestyle? I mean, obviously folk style is definitely something that Pennsylvania is known for, but you were able to go and excel in freestyle. Where did you get that technique and guidance?
So Joe Throckmorton, our Little League coach, who his son was my best friend growing up, same age. So again, just fortunate to be born when I was born and be living in the same town. And Joe wrestled at Pitt, so he understood pretty quickly that this is not a 3-month sport. It needs to be year round. And we didn't really start until about probably 10 or 11, you know, getting into freestyle, you know, in that summer wrestling. And but they ran a little, this again before club. So our club was our Little League off season. We had just another freestyle, would get all the local kids around, sort of the guys in the county from Jefferson, from West Green, all these little schools to come over and do all the freestyle with us. And I just sort of jumped in, right, and just started to learn. I loved the relaxing nature of freestyle. It wasn't as high strung as the in season stuff, so it was just a little bit more enjoyable as a kid. I think they did a really good job keeping it fresh, not getting us quote unquote burnt out. You know, we all played 2 or 3 sports all the way through high school, which I thought was a huge advantage to us. But the freestyle thing just sort of just got into it. I think 10 is when I started for the first time. Just wrestled a couple tournaments and again fell in love with it. And you know, our county or our area is pretty good known for wrestling. So and you know, Joe wrestled at Pitt. My high school coach, Coach Yates, wrestled at Pitt. Middle school coaches, Drew Headley's dad, Ronnie, wrestled at Messiah. Right. So I just happened to have all these guys that wrestled at a high level just being my coaches. So I was very lucky.
Yeah, and I talk about your junior nationals success. I mean, you didn't just do well in Pennsylvania. You went out and were able to show it against the best in the country at your age. So what was that like? I mean, this event obviously has been very prestigious going back before your time, but you know, certainly heading into college, that was a big event for you to win.
Yeah. This was, I believe that was a hiatus. You might know better than me, for the World Championships, right? The Cadet Worlds or whatever they called it then. So that was non-existent. I didn't even know a World Championship at a younger age existed, right? I just thought it was all senior level growing up. So Fargo Junior Nationals, that was our big tournament, right? That's what we went, state tournament, Fargo. Those are the two that you really looked at. You know, there wasn't even a Super 32, right? It was those two. You went through your state, winning state, winning Fargo were your two goals every year. So I think there was a lot of emphasis on it from a pretty young age of knowing what it was, and it was this prestigious thing, and we were going to take pride in this. We were going to put effort into this. We were going to have a training cycle that led into it. Not just, we're not working out, we're actually training as I got older. And again, just right time, right area. We'd have 4 or 5 kids from my high school that were going there and placing every year. So that helps a ton when a couple of them are older than you, and you again, you just sort of fall in line and say, hey, I want to do that, and you know, I just got to see what they're doing, listen to them, and you know, and had those training partners all through the year, just right there at home, and we didn't really have to travel anywhere, so that helped a ton.
Yeah, and obviously you had to have good shape and real good technique to get through that tournament, right? I mean, that still had a lot of matches in the short time back then.
Yeah, that was the old pool, pool system.
You probably
So
had more matches than they have now, right?
I would think so. Yeah, I think it was about, I wrestled both styles once. It was 23, 24 matches, something like that. You know, so it's a special event. I like the old pool system. I thought it was better. I think it's better than the.
Some people that have that opinion still too, right?
Yeah, I think it shows you sort of wrestle everybody in the bracket. You know, it's not just the guy that they put in front of you. You could wrestle the best guy the first round. But I thought that was the coolest thing about Fargo. It was so different than folk style that, hey, we're in these, I don't know, 128 man, 250 big old line these brackets. Yeah. I have no clue of how it works. So. It was a mystery. You had to walk up to the wall to see who you had next round after the pairs put the things up, right? That to me was like something like just so cool at Fargo that it never happened anywhere else, right? Of course, the track wrestling era now sort of squash that, but you know, I thought that was the mystique of it. You know, not knowing who you had next and couldn't even predict who you had next.
Yeah, but who beat who when, right?
Yeah, and we had as kids, you have no clue of how the pairing works. So you just literally wait till you see somebody walk up and post the bracket, and you go see who you have, right? And so it was a cool tournament.
So why Oklahoma State? Obviously, is a national champ and a kid with some really good high school achievements. You had some options. Mm-hmm. What made you decide to come out Stillwater?
Family. You know, just when I came on my visit, I felt like it was family. Of course, they had won a national title the previous year, and then we ended up winning 2. I was part of 2, I should say, my freshman and sophomore year. So sort of in the middle of that run of 4. So of course they were the hot team, but also when I did come out here, like it was like you felt as one, right? And again, I wanted a place that you know, my goals were to be an NCAA champ, an Olympic champ, and I felt like this is the place that I needed to push me. It was going to be uncomfortable. It wasn't the easy decision. It wasn't just the one that felt, you know, because it was close to home. I put all that aside and said, okay, what's going to get me to where I want to be? And there's going to be some ups and downs. There's going to be some adversity, and I just felt like Stillwater and Oklahoma State was the only place that could really put me on that level. You know, and then you get to meet the team, and you got national champs everywhere. You got, you know, 3 of the 7 Olympians when I came into school. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't I go here, right? Yeah. That's what, and there were a couple of them around my weight, so why wouldn't I go here? And Coach Smith, you know, being around my weight and a small guy, and recruited me hard and sat in my living room, and saw him at Fargo. Actually, was the first time. The old school, when you could only talk to him after July 5th, yep. July 1, right? So that's the first really communication I had after my junior year. You know, so that was just this place and the winningness and the culture and the tradition, and then you meet the guys and they're all family, and you're like, okay, well, this is where I need to be.
Now, you had ups and, as you said, college wrestling is difficult.
Oh, yeah.
You have ups and downs, and you have wins and losses even throughout the course of it. But what was key to your development? I mean, during college, you had to have gotten to a point where you saw improvement, and you felt that you know, you could be the man, and which obviously being the NCAA champ was the man, right?
Yeah.
What were keys to your development to become that champion?
I think the first thing I always look back at is, like, again, being fortunate, being raised in Pennsylvania, like just the tough, hard-nosed style of being good on the mat. I think that helped me excel at my freshman year early on. It leveled the playing field per se. I wasn't great on my feet, but being good on top, or you know, was really helped me. And then, you know, I mean, just look at the coaching staff we had, and then the people around this program when I came into school. You know, it was Guerrero and Coach Branch and Pat Smith and John and as coaches, and then you had Shane Roller and Jamel Kelly and Daniel Cormier and Tyrone Lewis and Johnny Thompson and Mo Law, all still here training, right? Like, so I'd walk in and it didn't matter who it was, but I was wanting to pick somebody's brain that day. I was wanting to, you know, get better. And Pat was really big on developing my elbow control as I got into after my sophomore year and helped me jump levels. And Coach Branch with his legs, and that was the position I wanted to be in, so he helped me a ton there. You know, but I think that just being able to, at the time, nobody had, you know, none of those guys had an ego. It wasn't about them or getting the credit. It was more about how can we help these student athletes and be the best version of themselves. And so I could walk in a day and work with Johnny or this guy or Shane or Branch or Pat. It didn't matter. They were just there to help us. And I think that helped accelerate just, you know, my love for the sport and knowledge or just the skill that I wanted to absorb everything from these guys. And I said I'd never left town in the summer. I stayed here and just trained, and it was my favorite time of the year that you could get up there every single day and just drill on one position and all summer get better at this one area. You know, and I just felt as I grew through the sport here, I fell in love with the sport at a deeper level. You know, and it really just helped lead me to success.
Well, and that success ended up going beyond college, right? I mean, when you mentioned about when you were recruited at the time, you wanted to be an Olympic champ. So, I mean, when did that dream get started for you? And when you were at Oklahoma State, did you have a sense that the Olympics was part of the journey here?
Yeah, so it got started probably when I was 10, right? At the 96 games. I guess in 96, 10 years old, I figured out that was the epitome of the sport, right? I don't know if I knew prior to that time that there isn't a professional league, that there isn't this, it's the Olympics. And of course, it being in Atlanta, there's just a little bit more buzz around it. And I wanted to watch wrestling, and, you know, you watch Kendall Cross, you know, win his gold medal. And that sort of triggered everything that I wanted to do from there on. And then once you get here, it's yeah, you know, like I said, in 2004, I came in, and 3 of the 7 Olympians are in the room getting ready for Athens every day, right? And I'm just here as a incoming freshman watching these guys work out in the same room and go through the same practice. And so I knew when my eligibility was done, I was just going to wrestle. That's all I wanted to do. At the time, that was all I wanted to do. So, you know, and again, I had to change a lot of things and learn and get old as I got older, got a little wiser with my weight cut and my weight management and my diet and all that stuff that came to evolve. You know, and I think that this town, this place, this program, that was just the norm. That was just what you did. You just continued on, and you wanted to be an Olympic champ, and they made this possible, and, you know, here, and that's what we were doing. You know, so made a junior world team, which helped me to realize, hey, maybe I can do this thing. Maybe I can, you know, continue to excel after the sport or after college. And you know, of course, not making any world teams didn't help that the first couple years to stay the course. But you know, I think that again, as I grew in those adverse times, I actually fell in love with the sport at a deeper level, and more as my career kept going on.
So your Olympic year, right? You probably didn't enter the year as the favorite. Fair to say. I mean,
in my mind, I was, but I don't think
right?
I don't think in everybody else's.
Yeah, but you started off you popped a big win at the World Cup, and just started a year where, I mean, you were really wrestling at a high level right from the beginning of the qualifying for the games. The status. What was going on in that year where you had made enough games in freestyle that you had legitimate belief that you're going to the Olympics if you wrestled well?
A couple things, and it actually started in 2011. Kenny Monday came back because RTC, you know, help with the club here. So I think just adding his mind and knowledge helped me. Just again, adding somebody to all these coaches I'd had, adding one more, I think that helped. I'd lost in the fall of 11, and that was sort of the last time I lost until the semis of the well, I lost in the wrestle-off one match, and then the semis of the Olympics. But I went on like a 15 match, you know, and the longest of my career at the time, 15, 20 match winning streak there. I think Dave Schultz tournament was still around, and I think that sort of kicked it off. And sort of just wrestled a couple overseas, had some success, and then went into World Cup and all that stuff. So But it really it was my mindset, right? It was I had to quit worrying about, thinking what I need to do. Like, I had to just be a soldier, get back to what I did when I was in college, and just listen and just show up to practice. And I'm going to go as hard as I can go till I'm exhausted, and then come back and do it the next day, right? And Coach Guerrero was a big part of that. He got in incredible shape, and he wrestled me 3 times a week live every week. And that's what I needed. I needed that to know that I could be on that level. And then you win a couple matches and you start believing, and changed up my diet leading into that year, which helped me a ton. So it was sort of a combination of everything. But it started about the fall of 2011, just sort of honing in and saying, hey, this could be my last year. I need to make sure I do everything, literally no stone unturned.
Yeah, and you ended up in a situation I don't think may ever happen again, right? This wrestle-off deal in Times Square, in front of the world, around the Beat the Streets deal, but it was the Olympic wrestle-off in your weight class, and you won that thing. I mean, what are your memories from being on that race stage, wrestling outside, and coming home as an Olympian?
I think the first part, it was just like sort of my little team of people there. That's all I sort of remember was sort of the little posse that we brought there. I think I had 65 people show up, my family, my friends, and then, of course, a bunch of us cowboys that came and, were in my corner and sort of helped me. So we were sort of external of the Beat the Streets, because usually it's a fun event. You do that, but we were so honed in. Hey, this is an Olympic wrestle-off. We're going to do it. We got to stay focused. This isn't fun and games. So I just remember showing up and just really. There was never a doubt in my mind, right? For whatever reason, I never even thought about losing. I never thought about, what it would be. I never had that thought. So it was just, again, very fortunate with Espo and Ethan Kyle and Guerrero and John and Kenny, Kendall, all of them there just supporting me and having my back and being in the corner. And, but we just did our thing. I think that, when I won the trials and I was just, I was announced as Olympic trials champion and everybody else was an Olympian. There was a lot of hurt in that, right? And it was nobody's fault. It was just, when you go across the stage, but everybody else is jumping for joy. And I'm like, hey, I don't even know what the next process looks like yet, because we hadn't even figured that out yet to the next day. So that was like motivating, if anything, to say, hey, I'm sitting there taking all the pictures in Iowa City with the team, but I'm not. I still got at least 2 people I got to beat, and the weight's not qualified yet, right? So there was all these other hurdles that just, that sort of just boiled up. And, I just, Coach did a good job of just making sure I was only focused on what we could focus on and what we could control, and the rest of it, I just let happen. And I was in sort of a different mindset of, there could have been craziness going on in the world I wouldn't even have known. I was just going to my house and I was going to the gym. That was it, and taking care of my daughter. That was it. That was the only thing that mattered in my life. Right, it was my family and wrestling. So,
well, let's also roll back to the games, right? I mean, you came through a pretty tough weight class and got a medal. What's your memories from that competition and the overall experience of being part of Team USA's Olympic team, right?
Yeah,
different deal.
It is, and that hit me like opening ceremonies. And I know everybody's like, oh, it's so long. It's this, but like. You could never, I always said, well, I got to do everything because I don't know if this will ever happen again. And it didn't happen again. So luckily I did everything. But going through opening ceremonies and they announce your country, and you see all these like famous athletes in your mind that are on ESPN every day. And they were like little kids filming and taking pictures just like we were, right? It was the coolest thing. So you see how much it means to everybody, and you're all one. And the games is something that I think everybody should at least experience, just the pride that everybody has for their own country as a whole, no matter what sport it is. You're here for USA, and you're going to have the American flag on, and this guy's over. Like, that stuff is unbelievable to me. But I remember walking out of the tunnel, and I hadn't really seen my family the whole time, just because that's sort of how I always was. And just over like the emotion that you feel when you, and it didn't hit me until I walked out from my first match. I'm like, holy cow! I'm wrestling in the Olympics. This is sort of crazy. This is this lifelong thing that you put up here. And then all of a sudden, okay, it's here. And wrestled very, very tight the first match, and luckily I got through it, and then I wrestled, a little bit better as we progressed. But just an emotional time, just because it is something that you just, as a little kid, you think about and dream about, and it's just hard to compare to anything.
No, but you had to pull that Pennsylvania scrapper out
to
get that medal, right?
Oh, yeah. yeah, it came down a short time, right, that bronze medal match. And I think that it was just I couldn't imagine it. And Jim Ravenek was a bit, losing in the semi. Again, I didn't ever think of like what the process would be if I lost, right? Like how my mind would be. And I was an emotional wreck right after the match. And Jim, Rav came up to, I was in his hotel room because it was closest, and I remember he just said, "Hey man, just talk to me." And he's like, "You got to understand. I understand you want to be a gold medalist, and you're distraught right now. You got to change. You're wrestling in 2 hours. You have 97 people that came here to support you, and I'm just telling you right now, if you don't get your head on straight, you're gonna be really upset with yourself if you walk away here with nothing." I was like, man, he's right. I can't be acting. I got to change it right now. And so that helped me a ton, just getting back in there. And, like I said, that it came down to 20 seconds left, and it was either a medal or I was walking away with a handshake. Yep. So it was, and it sort of changed the trajectory of everything I've done. So very, again, just grateful. People around me, the coaches, the selflessness of my family, my sisters, my parents, my wife, my kids, like all through that time, like everybody, my in-laws put their life on hold so I could go do this crazy thing that only happens to 6 people every 4 years, right? And so it's like you tell a normal person, they're like, okay, 6 people in the entire U.S. in freestyle every 4 years get to do this. You're gonna do that, and you're gonna win a medal. Okay, we'll see, right?
Well, you got her done, right?
Got her done, and it was just, I'm just grateful that all those people actually supported me in it.
So when did coaching become something that was important to you? Because obviously, after you finished your competition career, you've had opportunities to mentor others.
Yeah. So I went right on staff after that. Here's as a volunteer assistant the next couple of years, and I figured out pretty quickly that's what I wanted to do. Right, like when you're not competing, but up until this point I hadn't had this feeling of like you get those butterflies in your stomach and you're not even the one competing, and it's this guy that you put this time and effort into, or it might be, now I look at it, might be a first generation student that never thought college was even an option, but he's let this sport propel him to have this opportunity, and he walks away with a degree. He's a couple-time All-American, like changing the trajectory of somebody's life. When I felt that, like what that feels like, of just giving back and taking these young kids into men and ready for the real world, and they're again, they could just change their whole trajectory of their whole family, the lineage that's been there, and then all of a sudden, boom, you got this college graduate that's a national champion, and now he's got every opportunity in the world. Like when you have that feeling of what that feels like, you're like, why would I do anything else? Like it's an unbelievable feeling.
And times change, and you've changed, but so's the sport. I mean, how's college wrestling when you were an athlete compared to now when you work with college wrestlers as a coach? What kind of things are different as far as what you need to do as a person to be part of that?
It was a much simpler time when I was in school, right? No, we didn't even carry cell phones around really in the early, 2004. That wasn't a big deal. There was no iPhone. That wasn't a big deal. Social media has changed this entire world, and not for the better, in my mind. I believe it was a lot for the worse, and that's where we're at with the generation of kids, right? We're getting kids that have been on social media pretty much their whole life, right? And they've been on technology their whole life. So I think that whole wave of kids we're dealing with, it's completely different, a lot more complicated. Of course, with the NCAA and the NIL stuff, the space and the money that's everybody believes that they're worth. I think that whole thing that we're dealing with as coaches, it's just a lot more complex. It's not just coaching the sport of wrestling, right? Like we always think it's a wrestling coach, and that's the best part of the job. It might be the least thought process. That's the area that gets the least thought. Not in a bad way. It's just you got all this other things to worry about, and I believe that came from the technology and the social media and the marketability of everybody. And so I look at it as you better be more of a CEO. You better be more of a business minded to be innovative. There's you got the NIL space, you got the RTC, then you got your program. So you got sort of 3 to 4 arms of areas that you're raising money for. So you better be creative how to stay up with the sort of keeping up with the Joneses, the top programs, if you want to be competitive. So it's just a lot of different facets to it now than I think when I was in school. It was, hey, you're gonna, here's the program, and then when you're done, you're gonna make very little money. You better win some tournaments. That's how you make your money. To the development of the RTC, which is a big boom, and which has been good, right, for our sport, because we've let these guys stay around for 2 to 3 cycles rather than one cycle and get into work because they have to. They're having families and they're making $12,000 a year, and they need a real job. So I think that it's extended that, which is great. It's just more work for the coaches.
Sure. So what was it like when you got the call and said, hey, Coleman, come to the Hall of Fame this weekend because you're getting inducted, sir?
Yeah. It was funny. I was back here coaching, of course, came back, and I was in Albania at U23 Worlds, and Leroy, I actually missed the call. And everything ran through my head, just like, okay, what's Leroy calling me for? What did one of the wrestlers do that Leroy's calling me to get onto me about that I got to handle now, a situation? So I called him back, and of course, I almost didn't even believe what he was saying, because again, this was like, it was never a thought or a goal. I never even thought that could happen, right? Oh, you're going to be a distinguished member in the National Wrestling Hall. I would have called you crazy. That can't happen. That's not going to happen. So I never put thought into it. So when he called me, I was like, I didn't know what to say. Other than thank you, right, and thank to the board and the hall and everything. I didn't really have words for it because it was never a thought in my mind growing up or even through my competitive career going like, hey, I'm going to make sure I'm in the Hall of Fame. I don't think we, as athletes, at least I didn't think about that as a process, right? So just grateful that I even had this opportunity, and grateful that I'm here to be able to be inducted. That's just, it's something cool. And my kids are older now, at 12, 10, and 5 or 6. They understand it a little bit more, so that's pretty neat that they're at that age that they think it's cool. A couple years ago, I don't think they would have thought that, so that's pretty neat for me.
Well, hey, congratulations. I'm sure you've got that big family support here this weekend, right?
Yeah, I think there's 60 or 70 of them here.
Oh, man. Well, you have a blast, Coleman. This is well earned, and certainly should be a great time this weekend as you get to share this moment with those who love you,
Thank you.
Appreciate it.